The wedding planner smiled as she adjusted the last arrangement on the reception table. There, everything is finally ready. I stood in the middle of the ballroom, turning slowly as rows of white chairs stretched toward the flower-covered altar. Soft lights hung from the ceiling, making everything glow exactly the way Claire had dreamed. It was beautiful. It was supposed to be the place where my life truly began. A laugh escaped me as I imagined seeing her walk down the aisle. She'll cry before she reaches me, I murmured. The planner grinned. And you'll probably cry first. I won't. She folded her arms. I've planned enough weddings to know that's a lie. I shook my head, smiling anyway. Maybe a little. For the first time in years, I felt like every sacrifice had been worth it. The overtime shifts, the sleepless nights, the apartment we postponed buying because the wedding mattered more, the vacations we skipped, every promise, every compromise, everything had brought us here. Or at least, that was what I believed. My phone buzzed. Claire, can't wait to marry you, red heart. Another message appeared before I even replied. Mom keeps crying every time she sees my dress. I smiled and typed. Tell her I'm trying not to cry too. 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared. Nothing else came. I stared at the screen for a second longer than I meant to. Lately, our conversations had become shorter. She answered later, canceled dinner twice because she was busy. Sometimes she sounded distracted, like her thoughts lived somewhere else. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, she always smiled. Wedding stress. That was her answer every time. And I believed her, because trusting her had become as natural as breathing. I drove home to pick up the folder holding our marriage license. Halfway there, my best friend Ethan called. You done at the venue? Just left. How's everything? Perfect. Then why do you sound exhausted? I laughed. Because weddings are expensive. You're almost there. I know. There was a short pause. You excited? More than anything. You deserve this. Those words stayed with me after the call ended. You deserve this. I honestly thought I did. That evening, the venue hosted a small rehearsal gathering. Nothing formal. Close family. A few friends. Everyone moved around carrying flowers, decorations, and endless cups of coffee. Music floated quietly through the speakers. Claire hadn't arrived yet. Her mother hugged me the second she walked in. She'll be here soon. No rush. She was meeting someone. Oh, Ryan came into town this morning. I blinked. Ryan, you remember him? Of course I did. Her college boyfriend. The man she once described as the biggest mistake of her life. He wanted to congratulate both of you. I forced a smile. That was nice of him. Still, something about hearing his name made my stomach twist. Not because I was jealous. Because Claire had never mentioned he was coming. She finally arrived 20 minutes later. The room brightened the moment she stepped inside. Her smile reached everyone, except me. She hugged relatives, laughed with friends, then crossed the room toward me. Sorry. She kissed my cheek quickly. Traffic, something like that. There was a strange distance in her eyes. Not cold, just far away. You okay? Yeah. You seem tired. Just busy. She squeezed my hand. For a moment. Then someone called her name. I'll be right back. I watched her disappear into another conversation. That strange feeling returned. Small. Easy to ignore. So I ignored it. The rehearsal ended just before sunset. People slowly left. The planner asked me to check one final seating chart. Claire had disappeared again. She went outside, someone mentioned. I grabbed 2 bottles of water. Figured she could use one. The back garden behind the venue overlooked a quiet lake. It had become our favorite place during planning. We used to joke we'd sneak away there after the ceremony, just to breathe. I smiled as I walked toward it, then stopped. Not because I wanted to, because my legs refused to move. Claire stood beneath the old oak tree. Ryan faced her. They weren't arguing. They weren't saying goodbye. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't step away. She leaned closer. Then she kissed him, slowly, gently, like it was something she'd wanted to do. No one forced her. No confusion. No accident. No mistake. Just a choice. Time didn't stop. It shattered. The water bottles slipped from my hands. One rolled into the grass. Neither of them noticed. They were too busy holding each other. Ryan smiled against her forehead. I missed you. So did I. Her voice barely reached me, but it didn't need to. I had already heard enough. Every dream inside me collapsed without making a sound. I waited. Part of me wanted her to pull away, to laugh, to explain, to do anything that would make what I'd seen less real. Instead, she kissed him again, longer this time. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I backed away before either of them turned around. Not because I was afraid, because I refused to become another scene people whispered about during the reception. The groom who screamed, the groom who begged, the groom who fought. No, they could keep their moment. I would keep my dignity. The drive home felt endless. Traffic lights changed. Cars passed. People crossed streets carrying groceries. The whole world continued as if mine hadn't just ended. My phone buzzed. Claire. I ignored it. Another message. Where did you go? Then another. Everyone's asking for you. I placed the phone face down. Inside the apartment, everything looked exactly the same, which somehow made it worse. Her favorite blanket rested on the couch. Our honeymoon brochures covered the coffee table. The kitchen calendar still had little hearts drawn around our wedding date. I walked into the bedroom. The wedding rings waited inside their small velvet box. I opened it slowly. 2 perfect circles. 2 promises. Neither meant anything anymore. My fingers hovered over them. I couldn't touch them. Instead, I closed the lid. Quietly. The phone vibrated again. Then again. Then again. Missed call. Missed call. Missed call. Messages piled higher. Please answer. Where are you? I'm worried. Worried. The word almost made me laugh. My eyes drifted toward the framed engagement photo on the dresser. We looked so happy. Claire leaned against me, showing off her ring while I held her close. I remembered exactly how that day felt. Now the smiles looked rehearsed. The promises looked borrowed. The future inside that frame belonged to strangers. I turned it face down. Midnight arrived. Then 1. Then 2. The apartment stayed silent, except for my phone vibrating across the table. Eventually, even that stopped. Maybe she was driving over. Maybe she was panicking. Maybe she had finally realized what she'd thrown away. None of it mattered anymore. I opened my laptop, canceled the wedding reservation, canceled the honeymoon, canceled the photographer. Each confirmation email felt strangely peaceful. Not because I wasn't hurting, because every click carried me farther from the lie. Just before sunrise, I searched for flights. One way, no return. The destination didn't matter. Only the distance did. My finger hovered above the purchase button. The phone lit up again. Claire. Calling. Again. I watched it ring until the screen went dark. Then I whispered into the empty apartment. Thank you, both of you. The ticket was confirmed. And before the sun had fully risen, I deleted every remaining wedding plan, picked up my passport, and walked toward a future that no longer included the woman I had almost called my wife. The airport announcement echoed above me as I tightened my grip on the boarding pass. Final call for flight 218. My phone vibrated again. Claire. 23 missed calls. Dozens of messages. I didn't open a single one. The gate agent smiled politely. Sir, I slipped the phone into my pocket. I'm coming. 1 step, then another. Every step carried me farther from the wedding that would begin in just a few hours. Farther from the life I had spent years building. Farther from the woman who had destroyed it with 1 kiss. Before leaving the apartment, I had placed a single envelope on the kitchen table. No long speech. No insults. No questions. Just a few lines written with a hand that refused to stay steady. Claire, thank you. Thank you for showing me the truth before the wedding instead of after it. Thank Ryan, too. The 2 of you saved me from spending the rest of my life believing a lie. I hope you both find exactly what you chose. Goodbye. I folded the letter once, placed my wedding ring beside it, picked up my suitcase, closed the front door. I never looked back. The plane lifted into the sky. The city disappeared beneath the clouds. Somewhere below, people were decorating tables, straightening flowers, checking microphones, waiting for the groom. They had no idea he was already gone. I imagined the wedding venue without wanting to. Guests arriving with wrapped gifts. Children running between rows of chairs. Music beginning exactly on schedule. Someone checking the clock. Where is he? Another voice. Traffic. A nervous laugh. He'll be here. An hour passed. Then another. The empty altar answered every question. I could almost picture Ethan walking through the crowd with confusion written across his face. He isn't answering. Claire crossing her arms. This isn't funny. Her mother reaching for her hand. I'm sure there's an explanation. Another call. Straight to voicemail. Another. Nothing. Eventually someone would find the apartment. The letter. The ring. Everything would become clear. Not because I wanted revenge. Because there was nothing left to explain. The image stayed in my mind anyway. Claire unfolding the paper. Reading the first line. Then the second. Her face slowly losing every bit of color. No. Maybe she whispered it. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe the room became so quiet she heard only her own breathing. Ryan would probably stand nearby, arms folded, trying to understand. Then realizing exactly what I had seen behind the venue. Realizing I had walked away without giving either of them a chance to lie. Maybe he'd shrug. He's gone. Maybe he believed he had won. People like him usually confuse possession with victory. He didn't win anything. He inherited the damage he helped create. The flight landed just after noon. A new city, new streets, new faces. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew I was supposed to be standing at an altar instead of dragging a suitcase through an airport. That anonymity felt strangely comforting. The apartment I rented was small. One bedroom, plain walls. A single window overlooking busy streets. No framed photos. No shared memories. No promises. I set my suitcase beside the bed and sat on the edge of the mattress. The room echoed with emptiness. It hurt, but at least the pain belonged to the truth. The next morning I reported to my new job. The office manager shook my hand. Welcome aboard. Thank you. We move fast here. I need that. He laughed. Most people don't. I do. Work became my shelter. Long hours. Constant deadlines. No time to sit alone, wondering why someone who claimed to love me had chosen someone else. By the end of each day, I was too exhausted to replay the memory beneath that oak tree. Almost. One evening, a co-worker stopped beside my desk. We're grabbing dinner. I'm good. You've turned us down 4 times. I know. You always work this late. It keeps my mind busy. He studied me for a moment. Running from something? I stared at the unfinished report. No. A small smile crossed my face. I'm running towards someone. Who? Myself. He nodded once. Fair enough. Back home, I opened the last box for my move. Inside rested years of my life. Movie tickets, birthday cards, vacation photos. The tiny seashell Claire insisted was lucky. Our engagement album. I picked up the album first. My thumb rested against the cover. Then I carried everything to the closet. Not because the memories meant nothing. Because they meant too much. I placed the box on the highest shelf. Closed the door. Left it there. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. Another unknown number. Then another. Voicemail notifications appeared one after another. I deleted every one without listening. Whatever explanation waited inside, those recordings couldn't erase what my own eyes had seen. That night, I opened my contacts. My finger hovered over one name. Claire. A smiling picture still sat beside it. She had taken that selfie during our beach trip. Sand covered her feet. She laughed because a wave soaked both of us. I remembered kissing her forehead afterward. Remembered believing we'd grow old together. The memory almost stopped me. Almost. I pressed delete. The phone asked one question. Delete contact? Yes. Her name disappeared. A strange ache settled inside me. Like closing a book before reaching the ending. Only this ending had already been written. Weeks became months. The nightmares came less often. Some mornings, I still woke, expecting to hear her voice. Some evenings, I reached for my phone before remembering there was nobody left to call. Healing wasn't dramatic. It wasn't one perfect moment. It was choosing every single day not to walk backward. As my life slowly found a rhythm, another truth became impossible to ignore. I had spent years shrinking myself. Every promotion I delayed because she wanted more time together. Every hobby I gave up. Every weekend arranged around her plans. Every argument where I apologized just to keep the peace. Somewhere along the way, I stopped asking what I wanted. Loving someone should never require disappearing. Yet that was exactly what I had done. Ironically, It took losing her to find myself again. One Friday afternoon, Ethan finally reached me through my work email. "You're alive." I smiled despite myself. I replied with only 3 words. "I'm getting there." His answer came minutes later. "That's enough. No questions. No pressure. Just understanding." It was the first conversation in months that didn't leave me exhausted. Winter arrived. Snow gathered outside my apartment window. The city felt different now. Familiar. Safe. I had friends. A routine. A future that belonged only to me. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had simply stopped controlling every breath. That evening I returned from work carrying groceries. The apartment felt warmer than usual. I placed everything on the kitchen counter. My laptop chimed. One new email. No subject. No greeting. The sender's name froze me in place. Claire. For several seconds, I couldn't move. Then I opened it. There was only one sentence. "Please let me explain what really happened." The email stayed on my screen for nearly 5 minutes. One sentence. One request. "Please let me explain what really happened." My hand rested on the mouse. A year ago, I would have opened every message she sent. I would have searched every word for hope. Now I search myself instead. There wasn't a single question left inside me. I closed the email. Unread. Then I returned to the report waiting on my desk. That evening, my coworker Emma caught me staring out the office window. "You've been watching the snow for 10 minutes. I didn't even notice." She walked over with 2 cups of coffee. "You look like someone who's trying to solve a problem. Maybe I already solved it." "Oh, my past knocked on the door today. And I didn't answer." A small smile crossed her face. "Sounds healthier than opening old wounds." It wasn't easy. It never is. She raised her cup. "Still, you chose yourself." Those words stayed with me all the way home. Life slowly became something I enjoyed instead of something I survived. The new job challenged me every day. Projects grew bigger. Responsibilities followed. One Friday afternoon, my manager called me into his office. Closed the door. My mind immediately jumped to the worst. Did I mess something up? He laughed. "Actually, you did the opposite." He slid a folder across the desk. "We're promoting you." I blinked. "What? You've earned it. I've only been here a year. And you've outworked people who've been here 5. The promotion came with more responsibility, more pressure, a better salary. Walking out of that office, I realized something important. I had built this life myself. No one handed it to me. No one could take it away. Emma waited outside the building. "Good news. Promotion." Her eyes lit up. I knew it. She hugged me before I could react, then quickly stepped back. "Sorry. It's okay. You look like you needed someone to celebrate with." I did. She pointed toward the parking lot. "Dinner's on you, then." I laughed for the first time that entire week. Fair deal. The restaurant wasn't fancy, just warm, comfortable, the kind of place where people stayed longer than they planned. Emma stirred her soup. "You've changed. Hopefully for the better. You smile more." "I guess I do." "You also stop apologizing for everything." I frowned. Did I really do that? All the time. She leaned back in her chair. "If the waiter brought the wrong drink, you apologized." I couldn't help laughing. "That bad?" "Worse." The smile faded into something gentler. "You spent so much energy making everyone else comfortable. I forgot how." "How what?" "How to take care of myself." She nodded slowly. "You're learning." Friendships became easier. Weekends stopped feeling empty. My apartment slowly filled with things I actually wanted instead of things chosen to please someone else. A guitar stood in the corner. Books covered the shelves. Plants survived on the windowsill, mostly because Emma reminded me to water them. It finally felt like my home. Not ours. Mine. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, another life was falling apart. I didn't know everything, but people talk. Ethan called one evening. "You mind if I tell you something?" "As long as it isn't gossip." "It isn't." He hesitated. "They broke up." I already knew who he meant. "When?" "Months ago." I stayed quiet. He wasn't who she remembered. I figured. He kept disappearing. There were other women. That didn't surprise me. He blamed everyone except himself. I stared at the rain sliding down my apartment window. And Claire. She's different. Different how? She barely goes anywhere. Ethan sighed. "I think she's finally seeing what she threw away." After the call ended, I stood in my kitchen making dinner. One plate, one fork, one glass. There had been a time when eating alone felt like punishment. Now it felt peaceful. The food grew cold while I answered work emails. Eventually I laughed. I forgot to eat. That simple moment reminded me how much had changed. Loneliness and peace can look almost identical. The difference is how your heart feels. Mine no longer waited for someone to come home. Weeks later, Ethan visited my city. We spent the afternoon walking through a park. He stopped beside a frozen lake. You ever think about going back? No, not even once. I think about what happened. He nodded, but not about going back. A long silence settled between us. Then he reached in his coat pocket. I probably shouldn't tell you this. Then don't. She took down every picture. I glanced toward him. What pictures? The engagement photos. He kicked a small stone across the path. Packed them into boxes. I looked away before he could read my expression. That doesn't change anything. I know. Regret isn't the same as loyalty. He gave a slow nod. I figured you'd say that. Months passed. Claire sent more emails. Birthdays. Holidays. Our old anniversary. Every message stayed unopened. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because I already knew the ending of that conversation. No explanation could change the choice she made when she believed nobody was watching. One evening, Emma noticed the unread notifications. You don't have to tell me. I'm not hiding anything. You never answer those emails. No. Why? I thought about it carefully. Because forgiveness doesn't always require another conversation. She studied me for a moment. Do you forgive her? I don't hate her anymore. That's not exactly an answer. It's the closest one I have. She smiled softly. Fair enough. As spring arrived, our company moved into a larger office downtown. New building. New opportunities. The first morning there, everyone gathered near the entrance. Our manager clapped his hands. Welcome to your new home. Emma nudged my shoulder. Looks like life keeps moving. It does. You planning to keep up with it? I finally am. Late that afternoon, I stayed behind to finish paperwork. Most of the office had already emptied. The receptionist appeared at my door. Someone's here to see you. I'm not expecting anyone. She wouldn't give her name. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I'll come down. The lobby was almost empty. Sunlight poured through the glass doors. A woman stood near the entrance with both hands wrapped around something small. She turned before I reached her. Nearly a year had passed. Claire looked older than I remembered. Not in years. In sorrow. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. The confidence she once carried had disappeared. She opened her hand. Resting on her palm was the engagement ring I had left behind. Neither of us spoke. The distance between us felt longer than the year that had passed. She took one careful step forward. Her voice caught before the next word could escape. The ring trembled in her hand while I waited, saying nothing. The engagement ring rested in Claire's open palm. Neither of us reached for it. People walked through the lobby behind us, too busy with their own lives to notice that mine had just stepped out of the past. I've been looking for you for months. Her voice barely carried across the space. I know. You knew. The emails. A weak breath escaped her. You never opened them. No. She lowered her eyes. I figured. The silence stretched between us. Not awkward, just honest. Finally, I nodded toward the small cafe across the street. We shouldn't do this in my office lobby. She looked surprised. I'll listen. Hope flickered across her face. Thank you. But listening isn't the same as forgiving. That small spark dimmed, yet she followed me anyway. The cafe was nearly empty. Rain tapped softly against the windows. We sat across from each other with untouched coffee between us. The ring remained on the table. Neither of us wanted to hold it. Claire wrapped both hands around her cup. I practiced this conversation 100 times. You don't have to make it perfect. I know. She took a slow breath. I just need to tell the truth. I leaned back without speaking. For the first time since she walked into my office, I wasn't waiting for excuses. Only facts. It started when Ryan came back. Her fingers tightened around the mug. I thought I was over him. She shook her head. I wanted to believe I was. So why meet him? I wanted closure. The word landed heavily between us. He asked if we could talk one last time before my wedding. You agreed. A quiet nod. I thought it would help me close that chapter forever. I remembered the oak tree, the lake, the sunlight, the choice. You kissed him. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't look away. Yes. No misunderstanding. No. No accident. Another slow shake of her head. It was my decision. Hearing those words hurt. Not because I didn't already know, because she finally admitted them without hiding behind excuses. She wiped at her eyes before continuing. I kept telling myself it would be one final goodbye. I stayed silent. I convinced myself that after that moment, I'd come back to you completely. Her voice cracked, but that kiss wasn't goodbye. No, it proved I still hadn't faced my own feelings. The truth settled over the table. Heavy, uncomfortable, real. I thought I could bury it. She stared into the untouched coffee. I thought marrying you would make those feelings disappear. They don't work that way. I know that now. She let out a broken laugh. I learned too late. Another long pause filled the space. Then she whispered the words I hadn't expected. I also believed you'd forgive me. I looked up. What? You always forgave me. Her shoulders slumped. When I forgot important dates. When I canceled plans. When I put work first. When I took your kindness for granted. She swallowed hard. I kept expecting you to stay. The cafe suddenly felt much quieter. You thought I'd forgive betrayal because I'd forgiven mistakes. I didn't see the difference. You do now. Every day. My hands rested calmly on the table. A year ago, anger would have taken over. Now there was only sadness. You didn't lose me because of one kiss. She blinked. I lost you long before that. You lost us the moment you believed my love had no limits. She closed her eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. I believe that. She looked surprised. You do? Yes. I held her gaze. But not wanting to hurt someone doesn't erase hurting them. A tear rolled down her cheek. I wake up thinking about that day. I know. I replay it constantly. I know. If I had just walked away. But you didn't. The words weren't cruel. They were simply true. She reached in her bag and placed a folder beside the ring. I brought something else. I opened it. Apartment papers. The home we had planned to share. Our names still sat beside each other. Only now, there were signatures ending that future forever. I sold my half. She watched my face carefully. I signed everything. You didn't have to bring these. I wanted you to know there's nothing left connecting us. I closed the folder. There hasn't been for a long time. She nodded slowly. I moved out months ago. Where are you living now? A small apartment. She managed a faint smile. The closet echoes. I remembered how excited she had been while planning our first home together. She wanted matching shelves, extra space for future children, a reading corner beside the window. Now all of that existed only in memories. The old place feels empty. It probably is. So am I. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain continued tapping against the glass. People outside hurried through the weather while time seemed frozen inside the cafe. Then Claire quietly broke the silence. Ryan destroyed everything. I waited. He lied to me. Her voice sounded tired instead of angry. There were other women. I wasn't surprised. He blamed me when people found out. She laughed bitterly. Even his friends walked away. What happened? Messages became public. She rubbed her forehead. He'd been telling different stories to different people. About you. About everyone. She looked exhausted. No one trusts him anymore. I felt no satisfaction hearing it. Only distance. His consequences belonged to him. They couldn't repair mine. My parents know everything now. Claire's eyes drifted toward the rain. My father wouldn't even speak during Christmas. She paused. My mother packed away every wedding decoration. The pain in her voice wasn't dramatic. It sounded like someone living with the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. I disappointed everyone. You disappointed yourself. A quiet nod answered me. That hurts even more. She reached for the ring, then stopped halfway. I carried this for almost a year. I can see that. I kept hoping you'd take it back. I left it for a reason. I know. Her hand slowly closed around it. I finally understand something. I waited. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. No, it doesn't rebuild trust. No, it doesn't make scars disappear. I held her gaze. Some doors close because they have to. She carefully slid the ring across the table. I picked it up. The tiny diamond caught the light. So many promises had once lived inside that small circle. Now it felt like a lesson instead. I placed it back into its velvet box. The familiar click echoed softly. Claire watched every movement. Hope and fear fought across her face. She took one slow breath. Can I ask one last thing? You can ask. Her fingers twisted together. If she stopped, tried again. If I spend the rest of my life becoming a better person. Another pause. Is there even the smallest chance? Her voice almost disappeared. That we could begin again? I looked down at the ring, closed the box completely, then rested my hand on top of it. I never answered. The ring box rested on my desk for 3 days. I never opened it again. Each morning I noticed it. Each evening I left it exactly where it was. It no longer represented the future I had lost. It represented the truth that had saved me. That difference changed everything. Emma stopped by my office after lunch. You've been staring at that box all week. I know. You don't have to tell me what's inside. I think you already know. She leaned against the doorway. So what are you going to do with it? I looked at the small velvet box. Leave it behind. Sounds simple. It isn't. No. A gentle smile appeared on her face. But simple and easy aren't the same thing. I laughed quietly. They never are. Life kept moving. Another project ended successfully. Our team celebrated with dinner. Someone raised a glass. To the guy who somehow stays calm while the rest of us panic. Everyone laughed. I shook my head. You clearly don't know what my mind looks like. Emma grinned. Maybe not. She pointed toward me. But we know your character. Those words meant more than she realized. Character. Not success. Not money. Not appearance. Character was what remained after everything else fell apart. Weeks later, Ethan came to visit again. We sat beside the river before sunrise, holding hot coffee while the city slowly woke around us. You seem different. I hope so. You don't carry that weight anymore. I watched the first light touch the water. I finally understood something. What? Healing isn't watching someone else suffer. Ethan stayed quiet. It's refusing to keep suffering with them. He nodded slowly. I like that. So do I. He hesitated before speaking again. Claire asked about you. I figured she might. I didn't tell her much. Thank you. I only told her the truth. And what was that? He looked toward the sunrise. That you're finally happy. The word stayed with me. Happy. Not excited. Not distracted. Not pretending. Actually happy. It had taken losing almost everything to understand that happiness couldn't be built on fear of losing someone else. A month later, I received one final message. Not an email. Not a phone call. Just a handwritten note delivered to my office. If you're willing, I'd like one last conversation. No expectations. Just goodbye. There was no pressure in the words. No hidden promises. Only acceptance. I folded the note. For the first time since leaving, meeting her didn't feel frightening. It simply felt necessary. We met in the same park where we had once talked about buying our first home. Spring flowers had replaced the winter snow. Children laughed in the distance. Life surrounded us. Claire looked healthier than the last time I'd seen her. Not because the sadness was gone, because she had stopped fighting reality. She smiled softly. Thank you for coming. I thought we both deserve a proper goodbye. I think so too. We started walking without deciding who should go first. I heard work is going well. It is. I'm glad. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I really mean that. I know. She glanced toward the path ahead. I found a new job too. How's that going? It's helping. I'm happy for you. She looked surprised by the answer. You are. Of course. I thought maybe you thought I'd want your life to fall apart forever. A quiet nod. I don't. She lowered her eyes. You deserved better than what I gave you. I deserved honesty. Yes. And now I have it. We reached a wooden bench overlooking the lake. The water reminded me of another lake. Another day. Another version of myself. Claire seemed to notice the same memory. I've replayed that moment thousands of times. I believe you. If I could erase one choice. You can't. I know. She breathed out slowly. I finally stopped wishing for impossible things. For a while we simply watched the water. Then she spoke again. Ryan disappeared. I heard. He left town. She smiled sadly. I spent so long chasing who I remembered. Her fingers traced the edge of the bench. I ignored who he actually became. She turned toward me, and I ignored who you had been all along. I didn't answer. There wasn't anything left to add. She reached into her bag. The same velvet ring box appeared. I thought you might want this. I don't. She held it carefully. I figured. You should keep it. Her eyebrows lifted. Why? It's part of your story now. What about yours? My story stopped needing it a long time ago. She stared at the box before closing it again. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. The sun climbed higher. Claire finally broke the silence. Can I tell you one last thing? You can. I used to think karma would be losing you. She shook her head. I was wrong. I waited. Karma wasn't that one day. Her eyes filled with quiet regret. It was waking up every morning knowing I traded real love for one emotional impulse. The words weren't dramatic. They were painfully honest. I've had to live with that every day. I nodded slowly. And you will. I know. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply accepted it. I stood from the bench. So this is goodbye. She rose too. I think it is. A faint smile crossed my face. I wanted to tell you something for a long time. She waited. Thank you. Confusion appeared for just a moment. For what? For showing me the truth before we got married. A tear slipped down her cheek. If we'd gone through with the wedding. I looked toward the bright morning sky. We both would have spent years trapped inside a marriage built on something broken. She covered her mouth with one hand. I never thought about it that way. I have. I smiled gently. What happened saved my future. It destroyed mine. No. She looked up. It changed yours. There was a difference. She stepped closer. I truly hope you find everything you dreamed about. I already found the most important part. And what's that? Myself. A small, sad smile answered mine. I hope I find myself too. I think you're finally starting. I turned to leave. After a few steps, I stopped. The ring box was still resting on the bench where she had placed it. I didn't pick it up. I didn't even look back. Some things belong to the past, because that's the only place they can exist. Behind me, I heard the soft click of the box opening, then closing again. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing left that words could repair. The sun rose higher as I walked toward the city. People hurried to work. Coffee shops opened their doors. Traffic slowly filled the streets. Everything felt ordinary, and somehow, that made it beautiful. A year ago, I believed disappearing meant running away. Now, I finally understood the truth. I hadn't disappeared to escape my life. I had disappeared because, for the first time, I chose it. I kept walking. This time, I never looked back.